Osiris.
Under the scale, under the scale, under the scales. Under the scale, under the scale, under the scales.
Hello, welcome to Under the Scales. The Under the Scales studio is pleased to welcome from Albany, New York, Pete Mason, also known as Phan Art Pete. So anyway, I'm very grateful that Pete took a ride down here from Albany. And how are you, Pete?
I'm doing great. It's been a great day, great drive down, and a great time spent at the Rhombus just now.
Yeah, one of the first things I do, if anyone hasn't been to the Rhombus, it's sort of a mandatory pilgrimage, whether it's it's February right now, and it seems like it's summer because I'm sweating in my flannel, but we went to the Rhombus, and it was phenomenal. And it was one of the first times, I want to pat myself on the back, at 53 years old, was able to get up unassisted, second try, right?
Second try.
These young, nimble guys I'm with were able to get up easily. But anyway, I was kind of proud of myself. And got up there and drummed, like the old days. So Pete is known as Phan Art Pete because, and I'll sort of give a little of what I know, and then you can correct me where I'm wrong and fill in the story. But basically, Phan Art Pete started as kind of trying to keep Phish and the memory of Phish and the art of Phish alive after their second breakup in 2004. Is that right?
Yep.
And the way that you did that was accumulate a whole lot of fan art and put it into a beautiful book. And I saw it. I just recently was thumbing through it, and it's T-shirt art, it's stickers, it's posters, and were pins a thing back then? I don't know.
Not really.
Yeah, but there's really just beautiful, lots of, sort of amateur, but all the way up to really professional, beautiful-looking art.
Yeah, there was... When I started the project, like a month after Coventry, I was seeking out anything and everything, knowing that, and this is MySpace era of, this is pre-Facebook.
So MySpace. 2004, 2005.
2005. All you had were message boards, and I bombarded every message board like, oh my God, I'm making this book, let's do this. And I ran up by Phish, and they were like, well, if you're going to do this, we should probably meet. And they were like, okay, well, we'll see what you have, but just so you know, people have tried this before, and we never hear from them again. And I'm like, well, I'll show you. And 4 years later, I return, and we went through the book, and they looked through, and I wanted to take out everything official, and I knew some stuff would slip in that was official that I wasn't aware of, because I just wanted fan art. And when we found something we agreed on, I was like, I'm going to publish this, and so give the proceeds to the Mockingbird Foundation, and we did 2 printings, and we're wrapping up the third. And
it seemed like it was about a 400-page hardcover book.
430-page is soft to cover. We tried to do a hardcover. It literally would have added $50 to a copy.
Oh, okay.
Like, it was printing a full-color book is a pricey endeavor.
Yes.
I mean, this would be a Kickstarter campaign in a heartbeat if we started today.
Right.
But
there's no such thing back then.
If there was a Kickstarter or something like that back then, I might have considered it, but it was an investment, and I had a local printer who understood the nature of the book. The night before we released it, they had uncut books. They had everything printed, and they were printed on these gigantic, like 3-foot by 3-foot pieces of paper. And there were 2 copies of the book on each. And they had to cut them all, and then we had to hand bind them because the show was the next day. And I got ahead of myself saying, oh, let's have the show 1 month before Hampton.
Well, let me stop you there. What do you mean by the show?
Oh, the fan art release show.
Okay, so the book had to be done for your first fan art show.
Yeah.
Okay, now fan art has since blossomed, and you've had many shows.
Yes.
But explain to the fans kind of what the show is, what it contains.
Okay. So this first show that we did in 2009 was to celebrate the book, and there were some artists there. I remember AJ Mastay was there. Bo, who eventually became famous as the Eat More Kale guy, he was there with some clothes, and a few other vendors. So when we had the party to release the book, like eventually a month later, there was a poster show in Hampton that I was just a part of. Oh. And then the next show after that, there was one at Red Rocks, and then there were a couple more. And then eventually there became a group of us that started doing the shows, and over time I kind of took the lead on them. And what we had as these poster shows that were popping up became fan art shows and regular events. And the first official one was Atlantic City 2013, where I walk into the room at 10 a.m. to start setup, and who's there but Tom Marshall?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is like the best sign ever. Tom's here. He's going to stop by. But I was completely floored. Like, I have so much to do, and Tom Marshall's here. I don't know what to...
Fortunately, I don't think I took up much of your mental space because I think I left early intending to come back and never came back, so I apologize for that. But no, it looked like a lot of setup was occurring. There were tables and tables of books and art and posters on the walls, and it looked amazing. So tell me, a little bit more detail. So what happens? People who would ordinarily sell posters perhaps in the lot are coming and calling it a fan art show?
Yeah.
Is that because they need an alternative place to sell?
Yes. The way the fan art shows work most successfully is when there is no accessible lot scene.
Okay.
Or
there's no shakedown.
So no shakedown. No desire for artists to wander around. A good example is New York City.
Okay.
Like, nobody can vend for a few blocks around MSG. The cops will stop you. They'll arrest you. They'll make your life miserable, even if you have a permit. It's not even worth it.
I see.
So over time, I started looking into spots, and the closest thing to MSG is Hotel Penn. So we looked at Hotel Pennsylvania, and while it's definitely the priciest spot I've ever had to have a show, it's also the greatest location. It's right across the street. It's right there.
Now, how do those economics work out? So you have to rent the room, and do you get paid back and then make a profit, or how does that work?
I charge the artists a flat rate, and they come in, they vend. I promote the hell out of it. I get on every possible channel that I can of Phish fans, print.
You're doing a good job at promoting, because I definitely see your stuff. Whenever there's a show, I know about it.
That's great to hear that it's getting out there, because I can never tell until doors.
Right.
It's the life of a promoter. I remember the last show we had on December 29th at Hotel Penn.
This is 2016.
2016
during the
MSG run.
Yeah.
I poked my head out at the line at 11:15, and there were 4 people there, and I was sweating.
Right.
And then I looked back out there a half hour later, and the hallway was full. And I was like, okay, well, that was silly to worry. Awesome. I always get nervous that just on the off chance it might not happen, but I keep getting a great response. A lot of artists come in. I keep wanting to find new artists that want to take part in these, as well as those that are well known and established in the community, like Ryan Kerrigan, Isadora Bullock, Tripp, Adrian from Stupendous Creations.
I saw Ryan Kerrigan had made a beautiful poster about the evolution of Halloween. Evolution of a Costume, I think it was called.
Yes.
An amazing. I think that commemorated the new companion book.
Yeah, it has. There's small stuff, like the White Album is white, and Quadrophenia. I don't know what he has. Quadrophenia. Remain in the Light. He's got a certain color too, and Wingsuit. There's a certain design.
You can see, if you know the albums of the band, you can sort of pick out which one. I haven't found which was the White Album. There's stripes. It's really well done.
It's a very intricate poster. He does great work, and now he's doing posters for the Fillmore West, which is just huge.
And he's a friend of yours and does stuff for you.
Yeah, we've done 2 books together, and we have a third one that I can happily announce for the first time here. We're going to be releasing a new children's book, The Grateful Book of Letters. So
now this is also like fan art. This is Phish related in a way.
This is Grateful Dead related for the book.
So you cross culture. You're willing to let other bands into the fan art.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. When I guess the first. There's been a handful of Dead and Phish crossover art. There's one great one of Linus and Charlie Brown. And Linus is wearing a Phish shirt, and Charlie Brown's wearing a Steal Your Face, and he's kind of Charlie's giving Linus the casual, friendly elbow. Of, hey, buddy, okay, yeah, that's hilarious and appropriate.
Yes.
But as we got into Fare Thee Well, it was like, okay, there's not going to be any vending allowed near Soldier Field, and what can be done? And I looked at the place where I had a fan art show a year before during Phish and Northerly. And the best spot that I could manage was Congress Plaza, and what started as a one-day event turned into 3.
Oh, wow.
So we had the shakedown that everybody was missing, but it was a lot more professional, a lot more cleaned up,
Right.
no dogs allowed kind of thing.
How far ahead of the shows? I just remember the sheer impossibility of trying to move from point A to point B once you were in at the Grateful Dead 50. Once you're in sort of the cordon within the fence, there was no way you could even find a friend if you wanted to. You just had to kind of basically try to get to your seat in time. So where this was outside these grounds?
It was a mile away.
Oh, okay, that's smart. But how far ahead of time was it?
The shows were daily from, I think, 12 to 6.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, 12 to 6 sounds about right.
Oh, that's really great.
And the thing was, we had to set up that first day starting at 9 a.m. and just lock the doors completely, put chains on them at the end of at 6:30 or so, whenever all the artists were out.
And then run to the show.
And then run to the show. And every night I missed the first song, but it was totally worth it because I got to have these shows. I got to go to all 3 shows, and I had amazing seats for the week, or for the weekend. And the crazy thing was the last day. Because at 6 o'clock, like, people were already breaking down at 5 because they wanted to get out of there and get to the shows. And there was a lot to get rid of, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving until the last possible minute.
Right.
And I walked into the venue just as I Know You Rider was ending. And
how many songs in?
Second song in.
Okay.
But there's a little bit of a sacrifice. I've run across from Hotel Penn to MSG and just missed the opening notes. It's like, it's all right. It's a small sacrifice to be able to hold these events.
Well, it seems like you're sacrificing a lot. You're putting a lot of your time in for sort of I guess a thank you, but also sort of holding a torch, or in a way kind of thanking Phish and thanking bands for all the good times that you've had. This is your way of putting back. I mean, I love talking to fans that have figured out something that gives back, like all the Mockingbird, Phish Companion guys. And you're very closely tied, and you're doing something that's very similar in a way, putting in a ton of your own time, not profiting. Correct?
If I can get a show to be at capacity with artists, there's definitely a little bit of profit.
You get some gas money.
I get some gas money. I cover hotel room.
Right.
You know,
but that's never been the motive for you.
No.
Yeah.
If I was trying to do this solely for profit, I'd be broke.
Right.
These are occasional events that I'm fortunate enough to be able to do. So
that's really nice.
So like when I see the Baker's Dozen, and I know it's over 3 weekends, I know realistically, if I wanted to make this a business, I could figure out a way to do it all 13 nights.
Right.
But I don't, because that's work, and that makes this not as much fun.
So you have a lot of planning going on for the Baker's Dozen already.
Well, I'm just going to do three shows, one each Saturday during the run.
Right, okay.
Because realistically, that's achievable. I can do that without taking a loss, which
will it be the same kind of timing? Like a 12 to 6 sort of time frame?
The first show on July 22nd will be 12 to 6 at Hotel Penn, and August 5th will be 12 to 6 at Hotel Penn. The Saturday between on the 29th, it'll just be from 3 to 7 at American Beauty as part of a pre-show with Live for Live Music.
Oh, so. Live for Live Music. Yeah, all right.
I want to be able to have the events at times when people are most likely to come.
Yes.
And whatever's most convenient for the artist. So midweek shows are out,
right?
And the couple of midweek shows I've had they've been good, but just lower attended. So
that sounds really smart. Yeah, the 3 Saturdays, that's good. And I'll definitely try to come and show up and stay this time or buy something. So your artist, like we already talked about Ryan doing a couple books with you. He seems to have a poster at every single one of these. I wanted to earlier say, because he has this poster called Evolution of a costume or Evolution of Halloween or whatever it's called. He also recently sent me something that he drew years and years ago of me called Evolution of Tom Marshall.
He shared that with me the other day.
So maybe this evolution of blank is one of his themes, and I just don't know him well enough, or else that's a sheer coincidence.
He showed it to me, and he's like, "Oh, it was in one of the other Farmer's Almanacs," and the only 2 Farmer's Almanacs I have, I poured through and couldn't find it. I was like, "That's an old drawing. That's great."
Well, I'm going to tweet it for you guys because I asked Ryan if I could, and he said tweet away. So when this show comes out, I'll definitely tweet that and put that on on the Under the Scales page as well. It's kind of funny. It's the evolution where you see man start as a tiny, tiny mammal, working his way up through the monkeys to a stand upright man. I never quite reach upright. I guess Ryan's impression of me has me still sort of slouched as my final stage. But interestingly, I don't start as like a mammal. I start as some sort of space alien, which is kind of interesting too. Which he might know more than I do about my past. But no, cool guy. And I know Isadora Bullock is a great artist and frequents your stuff as well. AJ Masthay, of course, has achieved much fame.
Yeah.
David Welker too. Is he in or?
David Welker's done some art for the Mockingbird Foundation, and that's been available at some of the fan art shows.
Right. Okay. You guys are tied to them every now and then when they might. You guys have an overlapping interest, right? Oh,
for sure. And Mockingbird Foundation is always welcome and is typically a part of any fan art show that we have. Does fan art started as a charitable.
So you'll kind of just treat them as a client in a way, and they just vend whatever they're vending. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay,
and we coordinate ahead of time in terms of how we're going to market it, because it's not just, hey, the Mockingbird Foundation's there. It's like the Mockingbird Foundation's there with copies of the Phish Companion 3 and these posters and these jerseys by these artists, and we'll just look at the best way to maximize charitable contributions for the Mockingbird Foundation, because that's how these started. That we've always donated to the Mockingbird Foundation, either directly through a show, through originally just a bucket and chip in what you can, and we'll and then our part of the profits would go to them.
Yep.
Or later on, it was like, okay, you guys take part. What do you have that you can sell that people want?
And that's when those crazy posters happened, right?
And then they've been ahead of Phish Companion 3. They had these, I think it was 8 posters. And it was one for each of the eras of Phish. For example, like David Welker drew his...
Rutherford the Brave.
Rutherford the Brave.
Yes.
He drew his Rutherford the Brave poster.
Yes.
And that...
Forgetting
that's
that his suit of arms would surely weigh him down, and so he sunk. And it's him floating down into the water.
Yeah.
And you noticed a hand was missing?
There's a severed hand in it, and there's a hand in it, he's floating down. There's some stuff around the border that is representative of the song in the very detailed, intricate Welker
style, There's always stuff in the border hidden.
He's got some great. He's just uber talented.
Little Gamehenge scenes.
Yeah, little things that remind you of the whole series, or just hidden.
That's a
from
great
the lyrics.
poster. I remember studying that one in detail. Again, the Kerrigan one that we talked about.
Evolution.
Isadora Bullock's one is a beautiful antelope. It's sort of a close up of an antelope face, and it's called Out of Control. It's a great poster as well. I wonder if all those are gone.
Isadora has usually when she comes to the shows, like she comes out to me usually after, I'm out of everything. This is great. Thank you again. I'm like, that's the best thing I can hear is I sold out of everything.
I got to check out your book too, because I'm sure it's like that. I love looking at Phish art, so I'm going to definitely look at that. Is that still available?
Yes,
fan art?
There's I have less than 10 copies left.
Is that true?
Before it's sold
total?
out. Yeah, total. Yeah. they slowly tick away, and after the holidays, I counted. I was like, wow, I have less than 10. This is great.
Well, I better grab one before this airs, because then that'll disappear. So how many shows total have you done?
I have I think so. I'm at 233 of Phish shows.
Phish shows. Wow.
So in theory, we'll see how many shows Phish really does play this year, but in theory I'll hit 250 at some point this year.
Because I read an essay that you wrote now, obviously a while ago, when you hit 100.
So yeah, I remember, I forgot that I wrote that 100 show article. And I've actually been trying to rewrite it, because this guy, Brian Weinstein, had started this project of 100 shows. And I told him, I'll write it, and I'm on winter break this week. So I was
where he documents other people's 100 shows.
That wasn't his initial thing, but he's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take your submission. And I thought I would have had it handy or organized or in the folder somewhere of all my writing, but no, it's not out there. But I'm glad you found it, because
it's somehow out there on the internet. I found it recently, but I also found it, I think, when you wrote it, a long time ago, whenever that was.
My 100 show was the 12/28/11, the first night of the MSG run that ended with Steam. Okay. And that was the hell of a show. I went back and just looked at the set list last night when I was trying to rewrite it, apparently. And I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, that's right. They did that big tweezer. yeah. So it'd be cool to revisit that one.
Right. All right. Well, look for that, and if not, I'll email you your essay. So Pete, tell me a little bit about copyright issues, like how you handle artists getting into trouble, and because looking on your site, I saw you had some advice for artists about avoiding, Phish trademarks and stuff. But this is sort of timely because I read that Phish was having some trouble in copyright court or in trademark litigation regarding the donuts, and apparently I guess they were a little loose and allowed people to make stuff, and that's frowned upon by the court when they're trying to reach a decision that someone's saying, well, we own this, and it's gotten out in the public too far already. So are you ever involved in that, or what goes on there?
What I can share with any artist that ever has a question is just the knowledge I've developed over the last 13 years of collecting Phish art and putting the book and site together. And I have to credit my lawyer, Paul Rapp, is just great with IP law and copyright, trademark, everything. He's knowledgeable and he's taught me well. I'm not a lawyer, and none of this is true legal advice.
And what's his advice?
His advice was, you should stay within certain boundaries, but things like lyrics should be okay. And he's been on both sides of representing.
I take exception to that.
True. Okay, fair enough.
Maybe not such a good lawyer.
He looking at it when we did the fan art book, I was like, I don't want to exclude anything, but I certainly don't want the Phish logo in there. Because that's not a fan creation. That's a trade creation.
Right. So if someone tossed that into their art, even in a small place, that would be trouble. That would spell trouble.
It would be trouble, and frankly, you can be more creative than that. Like the Phish logo is on stickers, it's theirs, on their shirts. It's just let them. Let the band have.
But now, what about the donut? Like that's all over Etsy. Everyone's doing donut stuff.
Me too.
Including yourself.
I have bikinis and boy shorts with the donuts on them. They're a great hit, and I was encouraged in 2013.
On your website,
a couple of girls approached me and they're like, "Can you make these? Can you make boy shorts? Like we don't want them with the screen print. We just want actual boy shorts." I'm like, "Okay, I'll look into it." And I looked into it and. Took me like a year, and I talked to an artist who's in fashion design, Erin Cadigan, and she recommended some places for me to check out. And within a few months, I had a few hundred pairs of boy shorts that were a big hit.
Now, do you also have boxer briefs for guys?
No, because I believe Phish sold those at one point, and that's kind of where.
Because I need me a pair of those, really do.
I've seen board shorts done on Etsy, and I love a pair of those. But the design overall, like the color blue and a red circle.
You can't really trademark it.
Yeah, like what shade of blue are we talking here?
I see.
What size circle are we talking? What shade of red? How big are these donuts? How far spaced apart are they?
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff in there, and like on the boy shorts and the bikinis I saw, they are slightly different designs and slightly different colors because of the material they're printed on.
Okay.
That's going to change, and the donuts are gigantic.
I see.
And on the belt I'm wearing, they're. The blue is more faded now. Is that the same thing as?
That's approaching Fishman's colors, I would say, right there.
It's close if you hit a light blue and a certain red. But the question I've always wondered is, who really owns that? Because, and I might not have the story 100% correct. Didn't someone give Fishman the original Moo?
Yeah.
Well, who designed the original Moo? It wasn't Fishman that said, "Hey, put red and blue together."
Right.
It was somebody gave it to him and he wore it. And
well, the original creator, I see. You're saying that matters because the original creator might not matter if you're a band and you get someone to create your copyright for you. In that case, it wouldn't matter who the actual author or artist was.
True. I think the design aspect and like whoever originally created it, I think that's just more. I think it's it's just another aspect of the whole copyright issue.
But you're saying that person,
I think,
in a way,
has the one that would need to
could lay claim to that as well.
Sure. I think if we look far back enough, like the Dancing Bears is a good comparison, and I believe those were made by fans, and then and then the Grateful Dead owned them.
Whoa.
I'm fairly sure on that. If I'm wrong,
So
somebody
official
correct me.
Dead stuff came out with those dancing bears.
Yeah, and eventually they did. And now, if you want to use the dancing bears, got to go through Grateful Dead Incorporated.
And so Phish was attempting to do a sort of a co-opt the donut, and it didn't quite work, at least from the stuff that I read, unless it was fake news.
I think I think what Phish is doing is they're in the right to be pursuing it. I
Right.
just think it's a matter of time before there's licensing for Grateful Dead items, and eventually there could be that for Phish, and
see.
I don't see that as a bad thing.
Right.
Partially because, and I have to stress this, the donuts thing is way past its prime. It's so much yesterday's news, and I say that with these items still being sold. There's a guy who's selling on PhanArt right now. There's a guy selling Fishman hammocks. They are awesome, and I would happily buy one. But like, the phrase "we are everywhere" could also apply to the donut design.
Yeah.
It is everywhere
Although
now.
it might not be
It's
yesterday's.
on a guitar pick.
It's on the guitar pick. It might not be yesterday's news, like, they were just in Mexico on those rings, on the swim rings.
exactly.
So they're still being, even official, they're showing up in official Phish.
They're showing up in official things. They're showing
Yeah.
up in fan things,
Yeah.
and I mean that's the design that's identified with Phish. It's not just the logo with the bubbles coming up from the fish's mouth.
Right.
It's you have a pattern
This
that's
is the dancing
identifiable.
bear. You're right. This is the dancing bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
And I mean, every band has a logo, but not every
Yeah.
band has its own pattern.
So let's make the new one. I don't know what that's going to be, but we're going to work on that. Tell me a little bit. Let's see. We covered. You said you had 3 books. Did we cover those?
I have.
Oh, I know. One was a kid. Oh, you have 7 books?
Yeah, 7, including the new one coming out.
Okay, the new one is the sort of Grateful Dead A to
Yep.
Z kid book.
Grateful Book of Letters.
A Grateful Book of Letters, and then you had another one that was Phish, which was.
The alphabet book,
And
the PH capitalized.
And then what was that? That went from something to zero.
From Antelope to Zero.
Antelope to zero. Okay.
And before that, the first book that I did with Ryan was a book about my dog Haley's life, a well-traveled dog. And I had she had been to 48 states and traveled everywhere with me and hiked, and she went everywhere I went.
Is that all the continental, or did she make it to Alaska or
all continental?
Okay.
I waited. I did Alaska and Hawaii. I didn't want to put her on a plane.
Gotcha.
And it was just too far.
Wow.
But her and I did tons of trips. I think she was in an air conditioned car during one Phish show in her entire life, and heck if she even knew what she was sleeping through. She was totally. She was happier at home and when we weren't on the road. So we did that book together, and then before that, there's an ebook on film that I did that I kind of revised from a master's thesis, and Fan Food, which is a cookbook, and the original fan art book.
The cookbook, right? Yeah, I've actually seen that around in friends' houses, so that one's getting
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if I've eaten a recipe from it, but I'm gonna ask that friend to cook me something from it, so I can say that
Some
I
good
have.
stuff all throughout.
Yeah.
There's some. Oh, okay. Well, that's lot food. And then there's some. Oh, wow. There's a legit chili recipe in here. There's some really good burritos and some really good like full course meals and beers and cocktails and desserts in there. And then there's the fluff head, which is peanut butter and fluff on white bread, which is. I wanted a few of those recipes, and I got them, but I also got the complicated, hey, here's a really difficult way to make a meal, but my God, it's delicious when it's done.
Nice. Okay. That's cool. And I got to learn about your alter ego. There's this, on Twitter, I thought it was one guy that every now and then plagues me a little bit in a good way. kind of.
There's
name the Funyun, and I understand that's you.
There's a few of us that are. We have a few offices. I like to say we have a East Coast office, Midwest, West Coast, Far East.
Far East.
Far East. We got your fans. And it's a great concept. I had started comedy writing.
Are
in
Jafans
college.
real fans?
All Jafans are real fans.
I understood that the Funyun distinguishes between real fans and other fans.
Well, anybody can be a real fan. It's just to what degree of a real fan are you?
That's pretty interesting. However, Phan Art Pete draws no such distinctions whatsoever.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
A fan is a fan.
Yeah.
It's great.
But your alter ego, you can put on the goggles and then you become sort of like the evil version of yourself.
Oh, it's
not evil. Though.
I wouldn't say that. It's more of the handful of us that are there. It's to bring levity to the.
It is.
To
It's
a group
hilarious.
that just gets. Phish fans take things too seriously.
Yeah.
Like the Baker's Dozen, they're overwhelming with, oh my God, tickets. Oh my God, I have this. I need hotel rooms. Like, guys, chill.
Yeah.
Chill out. We have like 5 months.
Yeah.
Let's stop and maybe listen to other music. There's other music besides Phish out there, which is hard for some people to.
If you were to look at
realize.
my calendar and like where I've been the past year, you wouldn't know that there's any other band but Phish. But I think most of my friends are like that too. You know, it's like you just see, you see the tour, and then you see New York City, and then you see Mexico. It's just like it's been overwhelming. Yeah. So we're on a little hiatus right now.
Yeah,
until July.
But I enjoy the 6 months off that we have to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And it's great 'cause as a teacher. Their tours.
So you're a teacher up in Albany, and what do you teach?
I teach special ed to secondary high school kids in various disabilities, learning disability, ADD, autism, behavior ed. Kind of done a little bit of everything over the years.
Wow.
And
So that just
I need 'em.
continues my impression of you as a giving person. So now tell me a little bit about New York State Music, NYS Music.
New York State Music was founded by myself and Jim Gilbert in 3 years ago now. We're taking a team that we had built together over the years and brought together now over 100 contributors from around the state and country that covers every little bit of music and events that New York has to offer. And given such, we have Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, New York City, and Plattsburgh and Saratoga. Just there is a ton of music going on in any given weekend. And I
New
hear
York
from-
is huge.
It's huge.
It's like not only the city, but it's this massive state that goes all the way to Canada.
And if you're a band that wants to tour and you want to get from Boston to Chicago, or just leave the Northeast, where do you go? You go to New York.
You have to go through New York.
There's a reason Phish has played more of their shows in New York State than any other state. And even if you took away all their MSG shows, you'd still have a lot of New York shows. Because that's, where are you going to go from Burlington?
Right.
You either go to Boston and Providence, Hartford, or go to Albany and MSG. Or Albany, then
Gotcha.
South MSG.
Gotcha.
We with New York State Music, we try to bring every event, genre, and any band coming through the area and try and highlight their work, plus all the homegrown acts. And there's so many bands that come out of New York.
Right.
I still get amazed when Governor Cuomo dropped his Spotify playlist last week. There were so many glaring errors, and he updated it eventually to take care of a couple. Like initially, it was like, "Where is Lou Reed? Why is Lou Reed not on here? No Velvet Underground. He grew up in New York and went to Syracuse, and then moved back to New York. What are you doing?"
She started dancing to that fine, fine music. That was saved by rock and roll. Despite all the complications, you could just dance to that rock and roll station.
Lou Reed ends up on there eventually.
Right.
But he's missing Rick James and Goo Goo Dolls from Buffalo and Ani DeFranco for that matter. And just dozens of artists from around the state. Like you can't, a lot of artists have connections, like Talking Heads. And have a city connection with CBGB and all these other bands, and when you realize, like, oh my God, they're from New York. Like Leonard Cohen, born in Montreal, I believe, but is identified with New York City, for dozens of reasons. Bowie lived in New York for much of his career when he lived in America. So making people aware of bands that they would never have heard of, and letting them know, oh hey, Roger Waters is coming to the Times Union Center in September. That's great.
Yep.
Which is a highlight for all of us too.
Gotcha. Now tell me, we'll go out a little bit with. I'd like to add some music to the podcast. Mm-hmm. So I want you to tell me like a couple of your favorite concerts and stuff, and we'll try to get that in there. A couple of favorite shows or monumental shows.
I'll tell you what's going through my reminder right now. Okay. Sparks. From December 30th. So goes Tweezer, Sparks Ghost. We listen on the way down.
Let's play the Sparks.
That's the. That was like
the 30th. Yeah, that was sweet.
Bust out of like, holy shit, they're playing Sparks. Have you seen the new Wooker?
Yeah.
Oh my!
Yeah.
It's
hilarious. It's really, really good.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's New Yorker cartoons, but just with the Phish caption.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It's so funny. That's actually fan art.
Yeah. It totally is.
Although that's all copyrighted and.
He couldn't sell it, but he can keep doing that.
Yeah.
It's totally right. And if the New Yorker ever saw it, I think they'd be like, oh, well,
probably love it. All right. Really, really great finding out about Phan Art Pete and Phan Art Pete. And thanks for driving down here. And I really, is there anything else you want to plug? I guess you told us about your shows coming up in July.
Yeah, we got a couple coming up in
Saturdays, intervening Saturdays between the shows at the Baker's Dozen.
Yep.
We'll all go to Phan Art Pete in the Pennsylvania Hotel.
The first two are at the Hotel Penn, the 22nd and August 5th are at Hotel Penn, and July 29th they're we're at American Beauty. Oh, I'm going to be at one during Dead and Company, during down at Wrigley Field at the end of June, and and another one during Twiddle's Tumbledown.
Fantastic.
So there's really three bands that have a good fan art community. That's Phish, Dead, and now Twiddle. Which is surprising. Which was surprising to me, but I see it and it's like, oh wow, this is, in terms of the next blank, this is the next fan art hotbed. Like I haven't seen it in any other band. Like Panic, Humphreys and Cheese. Like it's there, but it's not what I'm seeing here, which is as vibrant as the Phish one.
Okay.
So that's kind
exciting.
of a plus.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It's good.
I'm going to interview that guy too. He asked to be on Under the Scales.
What's that?
Mahali.
Oh, really?
And I said,
nice.
And I said yes.
Good guy.
I don't know when it's happening, but it's happening at some point. We're trying to combine it or time it to one of their shows or something, I think. Well, we'll figure that out. Hopefully that will happen soon. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned a band, Formula 5. Can you tell me what's up with them and your relationship to them?
Formula 5 is a great jam band out of Albany, Lake George area. I've been managing them for a couple of years, and they're really one of the most promising bands that I've been able to come across. They're heading out in Colorado over the course of March. We're actually doing a Mockingbird benefit show at Owsley's in Boulder on March 15th.
Nice.
They have a new album coming out that is going to be just phenomenal. We were listening to some of the stuff on the way down, and it's great. It's called All Points North, and they're check them out on f5jams.com if you can. If you want to check out some really, really great new music.
Wonderful. Formula 5, everybody. f5jams.com. Cool. And Phan Art is at Phan Art, and Phan Art Pete is also phanart.net. Hi to the other hidden secret members of the Funyun. So anyway, that's it. Thank you very much, and I guess until next time. Interesting. That was an awkward ending. Sorry, Pete. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future, and certainly at the MSG shows this summer. Meanwhile, I want to thank everyone who participated in my Survey Monkey question submission. That was on Facebook and Twitter. Your questions are great, and I will be answering them on a podcast airing in April. Keep an eye out next week, March 22nd. I'm putting up another survey for 24 hours with a much more compelling request that you're going to definitely want to participate in. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Under the Scales, we'll be back in April.